Welcome. Today we're continuing with a special report from an Earth human representative of the Andromeda Council on a very important subject matter, transforming the Earth, removing deadly undersea bases from the Middle East and China. And today we're with Tolec, who is a representative of the Andromeda Council. Tolec comes from a very solid Earth family. He's a 20-year professional of the computer software industry with experience in sales, marketing, finance, administration, and operations. And he's very well respected among his peers. Welcome, Tolec.
Alfred, good afternoon. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And I'd just like to add, for those who may be joining us for the first time, is that the reason that you're off camera is that you're maintaining a strict separation and firewall between your work in the computer industry and your work with the Andromeda Council. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to keep those two worlds, I guess, as people would say, separate in a box. And when I'm doing my work, my professional work, when I put my suit, coat, and tie on, that's where my focus is. And when I'm talking with you, my focus is here on the work of the Andromeda Council. So excellent. Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Very good. Well, now, today you'll be giving us a very important update on removing the deadly undersea bases from the Middle East and from China. And in the course of our interviews, you've consistently said since September of this year that people primarily from the Procyon star system and assisted by others affiliated with the Andromeda Council have been, quote, taking out and collapsing the Reptilian and Gray underground bases. First, the one in Virginia. This was in late August, August 23rd, 2011. And soon after that, others across the U.S., Denver, under Denver, Colorado, and other parts of the U.S. These are Reptilian and Gray underground bases operated in part by certain military factions of what we could call the powers that be. Some call the Reptilian Gray rollout the New World Order. All others call it the Illuminati. There are many different names for it. You've consistently said that the high-focused, directed, and pinpointed sonic beams have been used to collapse these bases. And as we've seen, more and more researchers have come forward, independent researchers have come forward to confirm these findings. So my question to you is, number one, how exactly do the people from Procyon do this?
Well, Alfred, it's a very good question. First, please keep in mind that this conversation is simply an extension of our very first discussion about the war in space. For people who are hearing this information for the first time, they can listen to the first interview and discussion we had, it seems like a couple months ago,
right.
Which focuses on the outcome of the war in space, and or they can refer to page 4 of the Andromeda Council website, www.andromedacouncil.com, and there's a slash, and then it says page, P-A-G-E, and then 04.html. And that page is titled The Real Backstory, The Reasons for Change, The War in Space is Over. It's a pretty good brief summary. But what's going on here on planet Earth is a specific police action of taking out Reptilian and Gray underground bases. It's the continuance of a cleanup operation down here on Earth. I guess you call it the final phase of a proxy war that the star systems and planets of the Andromeda Council have fought and won to free the people from planet Earth. The whole idea from the beginning has been to defeat these malevolent aliens out in space. And now there's a cleanup going on down here of the remaining Draco and Hydra reptilian bases. Everything I learned about these, they're highly intelligent, but they're really bad, vicious species. These specific reptilians indicates that overall they're very mean, vicious, calculating, manipulative, literally cold-blooded, and very self-centered in their actions. They generally don't care about anyone else unless it serves their purposes. And for years they simply perceived us humans on Earth and our planet as natural resources to be consumed. So back to the actual technology. It's technology that belongs to the people of Procyon. They've developed it and successfully used it over years, and they used this specific technology as one of the means to help liberate themselves from the reptilians and greys in their own war with them, which they won their freedom, I guess it was about 12 years ago. So as to using this technology, the sonic technology, to take out the bases, the people from Procyon use a highly focused, highly directed and pinpointed sonic energy beams, specifically attenuated and adjusted to certain specific frequencies meant to do two things, and I'll outline them, A and B. A, the first is to disrupt and disable the mental thought patterns, the brainwaves of reptilians and greys, their assistants, that were either controlling, manipulating, or enforcing a secretive, if you will, scientific administrations, operations, kind of a soldier workforce down in these bases. For this effort, they used one specifically attenuated, high-frequency sonic beam that would incapacitate the reptilians and greys. The humans in these bases, on the other hand, they wouldn't even hear the sound. They didn't hear it, nor would they be affected by it. And Alfred, as you know, the humans were removed from these facilities. The second goal, the second use of this sonic frequency is meant to obliterate, to destroy and collapse the physical structure of the underground bases. It's meant to ensure that the bases would be completely operable, completely closed off. And for this specific effort, the people of Procyon used a highly concentrated but much lower frequency and a far more compressed sonic beam, which is meant to destruct matter. Does the job pretty well. They thump these bases pretty good, so at least for the job that's been finished so far, no more operational bases.
Very interesting. Yeah, it seems like the ultimate in the surgical strike. Now, you've recently said that they've had very good success in taking out many other bases around the globe, that it's been pretty easy going. But you've also, in our conversations, you've told me that they're having somewhat of a challenge with a couple of specific bases. And could you talk about these?
Yeah, I sure can, but only in some detail. I certainly don't want to speak about specific locations, and I don't want to give away any strategic or tactical information I know about in terms of the Andromeda Council's plans to take out these bases. But yeah, I'd be happy to address both of these bases, and go ahead, ask away.
Yeah, you've told me about the Middle East region, and that it has an undersea base there. That is, what can you tell me about this particular base?
Highly disruptive. Very, very disruptive base. First off, I can give you the general location. It's located in the area of the Gulf of Aden. This Gulf is located in the Arabian Sea between Yemen on the south coast of the Arabian Peninsula and Somalia in the Horn of Africa area. In the northwest, it connects with the Red Sea through it's called the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, if I'm pronouncing that right, which is about 20 miles wide. And you know what, in addition, because of what I've learned from my Andromeda Council contacts about this matter, I did some additional research on this whole area, this Gulf of Aden, and it seems it's been known for years as a very dangerous area known as Pirate Alley because of the historically large amounts of pirate activities located there. Yeah, you have in your possession a Google map and a simple map of the area so that you can have an idea of what we're talking about. But as you may or may not know, the vortex that people were talking about, I guess about a year ago, also happened in this body of water in the Gulf of Aden. But back to this specific base. My Andromeda Council contacts told me this base is deep, thousands of feet underwater, about 1.5 miles deep, which is, at least for my own comprehension, that's a long way down in the water. In any case, this base has been for years beaming a very specific, highly irritating, highly agitating, fear-based, and anger-inducing attenuated sonic frequency, right to the area of the Middle East, which is like kind of due northeast, to keep the people in this area in a constant high state of emotional confusion, fear, agitation, anger, energy, all sorts of aggression. They've shown me, visually, they've shown me that there's a transmitter that literally rises out of the ceiling of this base, much like a periscope in a submarine. And the thing rotates. And a particular frequency is chosen, which turns people against each other. Then the reptilians turn it on. And they turn it on almost every day. However, if people were underwater or standing on the land, they wouldn't be able to see this frequency, this beam, with their own eyes. It's sonic. It's a sound frequency, and it's out of our spectrum. You know, we can't see it. But this is exactly how the reptilians dominate and control these people. This particular base has been in operation for, I said, 5,000 years. And of course, I was astounded to hear this, and I double-checked the information, and they said, yes, absolutely, 5,000 years. And these highly agitating sonic vibratory energies, these sonic beams from this base, they reach as far as Syria, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and a whole bunch of other countries in the region. Very powerful technology, very far-reaching, serious long-range capability. The thing that I was most astounded at is they told me that it only takes about 15 minutes of operation of this transmitter being on for people in this area to start to feel its effects, for them to start getting highly agitated. And it certainly explains a lot. At least when you consider the history of this people, to me, it explains a lot of what's been going on over the years.
Now, you've also told me that there's a reptilian base off the coast of China. Can you tell me a bit about this operation?
Yes, absolutely. This undersea base is also in deep water, much like the undersea base in the Middle East region. It is also thousands of feet deep in the ocean. It's off of the coast of China, and this one's about 1 mile down, and it's also located on the ocean floor. Compared to the other base, this base has been in operation for about 3,000 years. And like the one in the Middle East, it also beams a very focused, very specifically attenuated, fear-based frequency. But it's a different sonic frequency. It works the same way, but it's a different sonic frequency beamed right toward the Asian mainland. And in this case, it's meant to keep the people, the population of China and the whole region as much as possible, in a place of constant emotional fear, intimidation, anxiety, and control. So you can see how this sonic frequency is different from the one in the Mideast. But for years, these people, the people on the mainland, have been highly manipulated, highly controlled, in a constant state of fear for their lives. And as we all know, they have few freedoms and have been living under a strict regime of government for a long, long time. Even if this transmitter is set as at a low level, it's still effective. My Andromeda contacts have said this particular transmitter from this undersea base, they turn it on for at least 30 minutes at a time. And much like the one undersea in the Mideast, this one also rotates. So its reach is also long range and can affect the Korean Peninsula, of course China, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and some of the other countries in the region. The intent of this frequency is control, manipulation through continually perpetuated fear and anxiety. Pretty self-evident, but the question I kept asking them is why? Why is this more important? Well, the reason why this is important, at least to the reptilians and the greys, is that they soak up this energy, this highly negative energy, negative emotions. Emotions like anxiety, fear, terror. At least to the reptilians, it's much like, like the human drug classification of amphetamines. The reptilians crave this human emotion of fear as a consumable, as a food source. And of course, with any drug, the more they have, the more they want. So, you can see why a base like this is so important to the reptilians and greys, because it controls a very large very large population of the people. The people of the country of China and a good portion of the Asian continent. And when you think about the implications of this, a government, a people, and a country this large, controlled, manipulated, and monitored, held in a constant state of fear. That's also a huge source of food, or a drug, if you will, to the reptilians. So, if the Andromeda Council does their job, and continues to do so, as I believe they will, and this base off the coast of China gets taken out like many of the other bases, then you take away the reason for the need for control and fear. You eliminate the source of the problem. No undersea base, no reptilians, no greys, no base, no need for perpetual control and fear. Pretty simple, huh?
Now, why is it that these specific bases, the one at the Middle East and the one at China, are more problematic than any of the other reptilian bases, are more of a challenge to take out?
Good question. Both of these bases, the one south of the Saudi, Emirates, Yemen, Oman Peninsula, this is the one in the Gulf of Aden, and the one off of the coast of China, both are well fortified. They gave me the image of like a reinforced fortress, if you will, and they are, of course, very deep underwater bases located in the ocean floor. They each have a domed roof and an energy shield protecting each base. So they're simply well protected. But there's a matter that's even more important in terms of which base has, I guess you might call it in military terms, a higher strategic value. Taking out the Reptilian base on the floor of the ocean, which is south of this Saudi peninsula, it's a priority. It's a much more pressing matter, and the reason is simple. Alfred, as you and I both know, and historians know, Earth's history continues to repeat itself year after year, including recently, especially in this area. The squabbling, the skirmishes in this region, they've gone on for thousands of years. And the original reasons for these skirmishes, I believe, have gotten blown, of course, way out of proportion. And if you consider bases being run by the Reptilians and the sonic frequency being beamed directly to this area, you can understand why. You've got a highly disruptive, highly agitation, confusion, anger, fear creation, sonic energy beam coming from a transmitter from this base. And it continues to escalate the possibility of full-blown war in the region. You know, and as you know this, we've been watching the news for years. There's constant fighting, even among their own people. And they don't even realize what's going on. They don't even know the reason why. And that's the undersea base with the transmitter. And that's the most astounding thing. You know, we here who live in the West would see all of this news year after year, and there have been different variations of Mideast wars, and we might wonder and think why. This base provides a valid reason. It's not the people themselves, it's this irritating frequency that's continually transmitted to this area. So I'm going to qualify all of this and close by saying, actually quoting the commander of the primary Andromeda Council biosphere, when I asked him specifically about this situation in the Mideast region. And he said, and I'm going to quote him, "The people in this area are being played much like what you call pawns on a chessboard, and they have no knowledge as to how, why, or how long this has taken place. We have to and we will put a stop to this. This undersea base will be taken out. Yes, outside parties with outside interests have attempted nuclear strikes in order to start a full-scale war in this region, which we have stopped, disabled, and neutralized their bombs a few times. Yes, we have had, as you would say, a hand in this. Understand, a full-scale nuclear war cannot and will not happen in this region. We will not allow actions that permit nuclear war to start by either side. The impact would be far too great to your planet, to your people, and the rest of your solar system. Moreover, what you do on Earth affects all of us." These were his words. Pretty profound words, I might add. So about these bases, anything else I might say about the situation would get into, or might get into tactical or strategic information, and I can't do this. But I can tell you that the goal is simply to put an end to the mostly unknown and unaware enslavement of the people of Earth by these reptilians for thousands of years. And for the end of the war in space is simply concluding with the destruction of the multiple underground and undersea bases on Earth, and quite simply the removal of these malevolent reptilians and their regressive gray associates from our world. I think sometimes the grays have participated willingly and sometimes not, but they still work together, and it's time for change. Earth is our planet, and we have the right to be free, sovereign people. That's the bottom line.
Right. Well, we're now running at about 23 minutes into this breaking news update, really. And so I think we have time for one brief question,
Sure.
which is kind of, which I picked up on because just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I helped co-found, along with people in Israel, Exopolitics Israel, which is the first sort of exopolitics organization in Israel, and they were telling me that there's very few UFOs in that area. And I just wanted to ask you, because obviously it seems that in terms of the dynamic of conflict, that Arab, Israeli, Christian kind of conflict is part of the dynamic, and they seem to be the three major, quote, pawns on a chessboard here.
Right.
In your conversations, with the Andromeda Council, did the question of either the Israelis or the Christians or the Arabs in that way ever come up, or was it sort of just a generalized pawns on a chessboard?
I'm going to toss the question back to you so I can get clarification.
Sure.
Well, first I'll answer your question, at least to the degree that I'm aware of what you're asking.
Yeah.
They didn't, when I asked the question and you heard the quote-unquote response, he didn't elaborate, nor did he provide any judgment either for the Israelis, against the Israelis, for any people of Palestinian heritage, or against people of Palestinian heritage. There was no discernment or judgment regarding either of those people, simply that the people in this specific region have all been affected for thousands of years because of this reptilian base. I'll give you an example. If you or I or anybody I'm going to give a real world example. If we're out and we're listening to a concert, Andrea Bocelli is singing Italian, his own version of Italian opera, or if we're listening to some classical music like Mozart or Haydn, there's a certain vibrational frequency to his voice, and there's a certain vibrational frequency to that music. And I would venture to say that everybody in the audience, pretty much everybody in the audience, is going to will be affected by those particular frequencies. Now, in a comparison, if we went to a heavy metal or rock concert which had deeper tonal qualities, lower vibrations, some of the older heavy metal rock music can get pretty, aggressive. I would venture to say that pretty much all the people at a concert listening to that kind of music would feel differently than if they were listening to classical or Andrea Bocelli. And my point here is that those vibrations don't discern who's sitting in the audience. It's who's ever there, who's ever attending that concert. So I don't see any finger pointing at either Arabs, Israelis, people from Syria, people from Turkey, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Pakistan. It's just that there's a severely agitating, irritating, anger-inducing vibration that's been pumped into that region for 5,000 years.
Right.
So did I answer the question you were asking?
Yes.
Okay.
And kind of as a follow-on, since we're at the beginning of the takeout of these bases, but if we sort of follow it through, that will be successful. It seems that this clearing process where these artificially introduced mechanisms for creating conflict and fear in the human population by an outside predatory species like the Draco Reptilians or the Orion Greys.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. That once we've eliminated that really opens the way for what we've talked about, which is, or what the Andromeda Council has talked about, and we've sort of discussed, is the transformation of the planet through various means, including what some call dimensional shift, what some call expansion of consciousness. It's a whole wide umbrella of terms. Is that a perspective you would agree with, or?
I'm pausing because it's such a large area of discussion and encompasses so much information and perspectives.
Yeah.
But yes, in general, I think absolutely. I can tell you this. I can tell you that she's the spiritual advisor, Tonka, who's a wise elder. The commander from the primary biosphere, the vice chairwoman of the Andromeda Council, the chairman of the Andromeda Council, all these people that I speak with, to a person, they've all said that as one of the most important things that they can do to help contribute to our involvement, our own transition, if you will, is to get these malevolent entities off our planet. Gone. This is our planet. This has been a planet of human beings for years, and to whatever degree that there were large reptilians running around controlling this place years ago, otherwise known as dinosaurs, they're gone. They're extinct. They're out of here. So now we need to clean up the reptilians from Draco and Hydra, who've been here for at least 5,000 years based on this statement, beaming these disruptive frequencies to the people in this region. And I'm certainly aware of this one, the one off of China. We know about the ones in the U.S., the many of them in the U.S. that have been taken out, and there are others around the world that have been taken out. These two are the most challenging. But so you have a number one priority of get the planet cleaned up of these aggressive, malicious, malevolent beings. Help the people of planet Earth to what, as much of a degree as they want help. Help them through this evolution process. And the more that they clean up this planet, and the more grazing reptilians, they want them all gone. They've said to me a number of times, they need to be off this planet so that you people can evolve peacefully. And it's interesting that I know a lot of people have wondered about this and questioned this. They really want to get rid of these reptilians and greys before they start physically visiting and interacting with people. They want to make sure that this planet is secure and peaceful without being terrorized, so that the people from the Andromeda Council can come here from the 4 planets that we talked about, interact with people on a one-on-one basis, answer whatever questions are necessary, and help in the process of transformation, evolution into being a fourth-dimensional world. Maybe a long answer, but that's what they told me.
Thank you. Well, Tolec, we really want to thank you for this special update. I know that we asked you about this, and you went and you did do special interaction for this. It's a very strategic area, and I know that people who are tuned into this area deserve to know, and hopefully more and more of our fellows on the planet will be tuning in to the vital information that you've shared and hopeful information that you've shared with us today. We've been once again with Tolec, an earthly human representative of the Andromeda Council, that is a star system galactic governance council in our region of the Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxies. I'm Alfred Weber. This is ExopoliticsTV. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Alfred.